On the fateful day of Wednesday, July 6, 2024, the arrest of a 70-year-old man in Nevada marked a significant milestone in the resolution of one of the most notorious cold cases in American history. 4 decades prior, a precious 5-year-old girl named Ann Pham vanished without a trace in California. Earlier this year, in January, law enforcement officials in Seaside, Monterey County, California, took the momentous step of reopening this chilling case. Thanks to groundbreaking advancements in genealogical DNA testing, the path to identifying the perpetrator was finally illuminated. The question lingers: what transpired in 1982, and how did the child murderer elude justice for such an extended period? Ann Pham was one of 10 children born to a Vietnamese fisherman and his devoted wife. Her father, Tuong Pham, was conscripted into the South Vietnamese Army when the nation succumbed to the North Vietnamese forces in 1975. In a desperate bid for safety, Pham, along with his wife and their 7 children, embarked on a perilous journey aboard a fishing vessel, joining 200 others in search of refuge. After several harrowing days adrift at sea, they finally reached land, only to be intercepted by the U.S. Navy, who brought them to Seaside to begin anew. In 1976, local police officials issued a statement regarding their arrival. Ann emerged as the first member of her family to be born on American soil, entering the world in Beaumont, Texas, before the Pham family relocated to California, where her father resumed his fishing career. Described as shy yet sensitive, Ann possessed a remarkable independence. She cherished her time at Highland School, conveniently located just a few blocks from her home. Her teacher praised her intelligence and punctuality, noting her consistent attendance. In a poignant reflection, Ann's eldest brother recounted how their mother initially accompanied her to school at the beginning of the academic year. However, by January 21, 1982, Ann had confidently asserted her desire to walk alone, declaring, "Stay home, Mom. I can walk by myself." Tragically, it was during this brief journey that the young girl disappeared. 2 days later, a U.S. Army Criminal Investigations Division officer, searching for a marijuana cultivation site near Fort Ord, discovered her lifeless body concealed in brush along South Boundary Road. An autopsy revealed the horrific details of her demise. She had been strangled, suffocated, and sexually assaulted. The brutal nature of her murder prompted a comprehensive investigation involving the U.S. Army's Criminal Investigations Division, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Seaside Police Department. Yet the case ultimately went cold. In 2022, however, Seaside Police, in collaboration with the Monterey County District Attorney's Office Cold Case Task Force, reignited the investigation, submitting evidence for DNA testing in hopes of uncovering new leads. The Deputy Attorney's Office established its Cold Case Task Force 2 years prior, aiming to infuse local investigations with innovative technology and fresh perspectives. Earlier this year, the task force was awarded a substantial grant of $535,000 from the U.S. Department of Justice, designed to enhance forensic testing and investigative efforts in the pursuit of cold cases where DNA from a suspect has been pinpointed. This advanced DNA analysis has now identified perpetrator in the tragic murder of Ann Pham. Previously, the Seaside Police detectives, alongside the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Army Criminal Investigation Department, had delved into the case, but it had since gone cold. Although Ann's parents have passed away, her surviving siblings were notified in January that the investigation is being revived. Seaside Police Chief Nicholas Borges remarked, "This is one of the most unsettling cold cases we have encountered." He added, "It is evident that a monster was involved, and I remain hopeful that we can deliver justice for that beautiful little angel." Investigators have dispatched all available physical evidence to a laboratory for DNA testing, with the hope of encouraging potential witnesses to come forward. Typically, she would walk to school with her mother, but on that fateful day it was raining, and she persuaded her mother and older brother to let her walk alone, Borges recounted. "She never arrived at school. The teachers never laid eyes on her. It is incredibly frustrating from my viewpoint, as it is merely a short distance away. She was a quiet and cautious girl," Borges continued. Based on what her family has shared, she was not the type to respond to a stranger's call, whether it was someone asking for help finding a dog or offering candy. Something must have transpired swiftly. We know for certain that someone must have witnessed something amiss, and it only takes one individual to read an article, see a news clipping, or recognize her image and think, "Oh my goodness, I remember this." In July 2022, a man from Nevada was charged with the 1982 murder of 5-year-old Ann Pham. The Monterey County District Attorney's Office has revealed that Robert John Lenu, a 70-year-old resident of Reno, has been apprehended and is currently detained in Nevada, awaiting extradition to California. He faces a charge of first-degree murder, with special circumstances indicating that he allegedly took the life of Pham while engaged in both kidnapping and committing a lewd act against a child under 14. At the time of the tragic incident, Lenu was just 29 years old and resided in Seaside. The Cold Case Task Force, supported by funding from a U.S. Department of Justice grant, has diligently pursued justice in Pham's case. In a recent press release, the District Attorney's Office stated, "The Pham case is among several that the Seaside Police had the opportunity to revisit with the backing of the Cold Case Task Force, which has successfully led to the arrest and charging of 5 individuals in connection with 6 different homicides across Monterey County from 1981 to 2017. Acting Seaside Police Chief Nick Borges remarked earlier this year that the Pham case stands out as one of the most unsettling cold cases they have encountered. This serves as a testament to the exemplary efforts of the Seaside Police Department in reopening the Pham case and collaborating with the Monterey County District Attorney's Cold Case Task Force, ultimately providing a measure of closure for the Pham family. Seaside Mayor Ian Oglesby expressed in a recent press release, "The hearts of our Seaside community go out to them." The Cold Case Task Force revisited Pham's case with the assistance of forensic history experts, including Dr. Ed Green from UC Santa Cruz, Parabon Nanolabs, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Division, the Nevada State Police Division of Parole and Probation, and the Regional Sex Offender Notification Unit. Investigative genetic genealogy is increasingly gaining traction within the forensic community for its effectiveness in resolving previously unsolvable cold cases for law enforcement. The United States, regrettably, grapples with alarmingly high rates of infanticide, defined as the tragic murder of children under the age of 4. Due to their tender age and the fact that they have likely not yet entered the educational system, these innocent lives often go unnoticed, leading to a lack of missing person reports. The grim reality is that, given the strong possibility that their parents are the culprits, the remains of these children frequently remain unidentified, allowing their murderers to evade justice. However, through the innovative application of investigative genetic genealogy, it is now possible to uncover the identities of these parents and piece together the circumstances surrounding these heart-wrenching cases, even if many years have elapsed since the discovery of the remains. In response to this pressing issue, the Monterey County District Attorney's Office established the Cold Case Task Force, dedicated to providing families with the closure they so desperately seek through advanced DNA sequencing techniques. Our district attorney's initiative to launch the Cold Case Task Force has been an incredible blessing for us here in Seaside, remarked Interim Seaside Police Chief Nick Borges. Following the arrest of Lenu, Borges expressed, "Today marks one of the most joyous moments in my professional journey. Many within the department have inquired about the cold case poster displayed prominently, to which he replied, 'This will serve as a testament to our success once we solve the case.' His optimism has proven well-founded in this instance. Borges harbors hopes that Ann's family will find solace and healing as they finally receive the answers they have long sought. The perpetrator of Ann Pham's tragic fate, Robert John Lenu, is a white male hailing from Nevada. Details regarding his background and prior offenses continue to emerge in the media, but what is known thus far paints a troubling picture. Robert Lenu resided in Reno, Nevada, and is a registered sex offender in the state. His past includes service as a soldier stationed at Fort Ord, a U.S. Army installation located along the picturesque Monterey Bay in California. Notably, he bears tattoos of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Dale Earnhardt Sr. on his shoulders, a detail that adds to the complexity of his profile. At a towering height of 5 feet 8 inches and weighing 160 pounds, he must have cast a formidable shadow over a young child. The specifics of how he carried out the abduction remain shrouded in mystery. What is known is that their paths crossed on her way to school. Shortly thereafter, he callously discarded her like refuse by the roadside. In 1982, Robert Lenu resided in Seaside, California, just a stone's throw from 5-year-old Ann Pham's house. On that fateful, rain-soaked morning of January 21st, 1982, he seized Ann as she made her way to kindergarten at Highland Elementary School. It is alleged that he sexually assaulted and ultimately strangled her, leaving her lifeless body near a ditch in Fort Ord, where it was discovered 2 days later, on January 23, 1982. Yet the tale of his heinous acts does not conclude there. This was not an isolated incident. On June 3, 1998, he faced conviction for lewd conduct with a child under 14 in Las Vegas, Nevada. At the age of 70, he was apprehended on July 6, 2022. The following day, Robert Lenu was charged with first-degree murder, with special circumstances indicating that he had murdered Pham in 1982 while committing kidnapping and a lewd act against a minor. He currently remains in custody in Nevada, awaiting extradition to California. In January, as this cold case resurfaced in the headlines after many years, law enforcement officials delivered impassioned remarks during a press conference. "The individual responsible for this is an absolute monster," stated Borges at that time. He continued, "Most monsters do not alter their ways. What haunts me is the unsettling thought that other potential victims may still exist. With each passing moment, there is someone out there who could fall prey." She was a 5-year-old girl, full of promise, destined to make her family proud and to embrace the American dream, a reality that is profoundly tragic. This family had fled Vietnam, escaping the ravages of war. In the idyllic vision of the United States, the family once believed they had found their paradise. Little did they know that their journey to this charming town, despite its challenges at the time, would lead to the heartbreaking loss of their precious child. The Federal Bureau of Investigation reports a staggering 250,000 unsolved murders across the nation, a figure that escalates by over 6,000 annually. Homicide investigations often grow cold due to various factors. Leads dwindle, memories fade, crucial evidence disappears, and newer cases take precedence. As time elapses, the families of victims find themselves increasingly desperate for closure, their hopes waning. However, with the advent of advanced DNA technology, law enforcement agencies are beginning to unravel these once insurmountable mysteries. The formation of cold case teams is on the rise, yet they encounter significant challenges. In 2020, the Monterey County District Attorney's Office established a dedicated cold case task force, comprising seasoned investigators. This team collaborates closely with local law enforcement to meticulously review unsolved cases and devise strategies to apprehend the perpetrators. Among these seasoned professionals is Deputy District Attorney Matthew Lahura, who emphasized the importance of collaboration. "We reached out to all the different law enforcement agencies, and we just agreed that it was the right time to put all of our minds together, start collaborating with each other, and really see if we can clear some of these cases. The truth matters. It always matters." To date, investigators have scrutinized over 30 homicide cases dating from 1974 to 2018. In August, District Attorney Janine Passioni proudly announced that murder charges had been filed in 5 cold cases. Investigator Bill Clark, a passionate advocate for resolving cold cases nationwide, acknowledges the daunting nature of their mission, stating that while the goal is to close as many cases as possible, the task is far from straightforward. "A significant number of cases remain unresolved, and we are diligently prioritizing our approach to these matters," Clark remarked. Currently, there are 563 unsolved cases in Monterey County, with Salinas accounting for the majority, exceeding 240. The resolution of these cases hinges on the application of cutting-edge technologies, the scrutiny of any new evidence, and, crucially, the courage of witnesses to step forward after many years. A novel technique has been introduced, utilizing familial DNA analysis to identify shared DNA markers within families, allowing investigators to explore potential leads among relatives who may not yet be in the system. Clark has initiated collaboration with the family of Ann Pham to seek closure in her case. "They are genuinely grateful for our renewed focus on this matter," he shared. After nearly 4 decades, 39 years to be precise, they were taken aback. "While the task is challenging," Clark continued, "the opportunity to bring solace to families left in uncertainty is what truly makes this endeavor meaningful. Members of the task force are encouraging anyone in the community who wishes to have a cold case revisited to reach out directly. While we cannot promise outcomes, we have made significant progress on many of these cases, Lenu noted. We are certainly much closer to resolution than we were at the time of their occurrence. For 4 decades, the Pham family has sought answers regarding the tragic murder of their 5-year-old daughter, Anne, who vanished one January morning in 1982. At that time, her brother described her as shy, yet deeply attuned to the feelings of others. For example, when their father would open a pack of cigarettes, she would quietly fetch him an ashtray. If their mother was preoccupied, Anne would remain silent to avoid causing any disturbance. Throughout the years, this family has mourned Anne's loss without ever achieving closure. In 1982, we had no leads. The police were at a loss, and there were no suspects, stated Monterey County District Attorney Jeanine Passioni. This family has endured a prolonged period of uncertainty regarding the fate of Anne. They were aware that something tragic had occurred, yet the details remained elusive, remarked Passioni. In this specific instance, we recognized that the Seaside Police Department possessed crucial evidence from which we could extract DNA. We initiated our investigation with a novel type of evidence that had never before been presented in court, successfully identifying a DNA sequence linked to Mr. Lenu. We are elated to have pinpointed the suspect. He has been formally charged, and we are committed to pursuing this case with vigor, Passioni stated. She further noted that Lenu, a former Army sergeant stationed at Fort Ord, is accused of Anne's murder and is also a convicted child molester currently on parole. Passioni highlighted that there are over 400 unresolved cold cases in Monterey County, but this recent breakthrough has sparked renewed hope for the resolution of cold murder cases across the nation, largely due to the diligent efforts of the Monterey County Cold Case Task Force.
On December 30th, 1985, during an inquiry into a vehicular accident on an embankment adjacent to Mountain View Cemetery in Seattle, the Auburn City Police stumbled upon a set of remains, which were ultimately identified as human. The identity of these remains remained a mystery, and they were designated as Bone 17. Earlier, on April 23, 1985, skeletal remains of another unidentified woman were unearthed near a golf course in Tualatin, Oregon, and were referred to as Bones 20. The chilling revelation of these skeletal remains ignited a flurry of inquiries. Who were these unfortunate souls? What fate had befallen them? Were their stories intertwined? In the wake of the discovery in King County, authorities launched an urgent investigation. The initial focus was on identifying the remains, yet this endeavor proved fruitless. Nevertheless, through meticulous examination of the condition and patterns of the remains, investigators linked Bones 17 and Bones 20 to a series of murders that transpired between 1982 and 1984 in King County. Seattle police harbored suspicions that these two might represent additional victims of the infamous serial killer known as the Green River Killer, who had eluded capture for far too long. To delve deeper into the enigma of the Green River Killer, one must journey back to 1982. In the early 1980s, numerous victims of the Green River Killer were discovered in or around the Green River, leading to the moniker Green River Killer. In July 1982, the body of the killer's first victim was located in King County, adorned with a distinctive type of spray paint on the clothing encircling her neck. Initially, her identity remained unknown, but she was later revealed to be Wendy Lee Caulfield. In the days that followed, investigators found themselves at a standstill regarding the killer's identity until an unexpected turn of events unfolded. In August 1982, the lifeless bodies of 4 young women were also recovered along the Green River. These tragic events prompted the King County Sheriff's Office to establish the Green River Task Force, dedicated to unraveling the mysteries surrounding these heinous crimes. Authorities remained blissfully unaware that this was merely the inception of a harrowing saga, as a chilling sequence of murders was poised to commence. In 1983, the investigation into the Green River killings took a turn when 18-year-old Marie Malvar vanished without a trace. On that fateful evening, Marie and her boyfriend were dining at a restaurant along State Route 99, the renowned Pacific Highway in South Seattle. When her boyfriend stepped outside to take a call, he returned to find her mysteriously absent. To his shock, he spotted a truck passing by, with Marie seated next to the driver, engaged in conversation. Desperate to locate her, he scoured the highway and surrounding areas of Seattle. Upon being alerted, the police initiated their search, focusing on regular truck drivers traversing the Pacific Highway, yet there was no sign of her. Eventually, Marie's boyfriend discovered the truck parked outside the residence of a local truck painter, Gary Ridgeway, convinced it was the same vehicle she had entered on the day of her disappearance. Local authorities were notified, but Marie was nowhere to be found. Tragically, a few days later, her lifeless body was recovered from the Green River. In the wake of this discovery, investigators turned their attention to Gary Ridgeway, interrogating him regarding the case. During the questioning, several significant leads emerged, yet Ridgeway steadfastly denied any wrongdoing, even passing a polygraph examination in 1984. He would assure us that everything was fine, that he hadn't harmed those women, that he hadn't taken their lives, the police stated. Meanwhile, the grim tally of missing women and murders continued to escalate. By the close of 1982, over 15 women had either vanished or been discovered deceased, and the list only grew longer. The pressure on law enforcement intensified as the elusive killer remained at large, posing a grave threat to more lives. We are drawing attention to the reality that these women are being murdered. Any action is preferable to inaction. By June 1983, the number of missing girls had surged to over 26, and the body count continued to rise. By the end of 1984, the grim total exceeded 40 victims. Then a dramatic shift occurred. Following 1985, there was a notable decline in the number of homicides, culminating in the last known murder in 1998. Authorities discovered numerous victims' bodies, often found unclothed along the banks of the Green River, sometimes arranged in a disturbing manner. Additional remains were located in secluded, forested regions of King County. In several instances, clear signs of assault were evident, with bodily fluids present on the victims. Investigators meticulously gathered evidence, including DNA samples, from each crime scene, preserving it for future analysis. Nevertheless, Ridgeway remained the primary suspect as authorities sought any potential leads. It was uncovered that Ridgeway had served 2 years in the U.S. Navy starting in 1969 at the age of 20 before relocating to the Seattle area, where he worked as a truck painter. Notably, the paint found on the first victim, Wendy Caulfield, was not subjected to analysis at the time. Had it been, linking the murder to Ridgeway might have been more straightforward. Further inquiries into Ridgeway's background revealed a history of criminal activity, including an arrest for prostitution in 1982 and another in 1980 for allegedly choking a sex worker. However, he was released each time due to insufficient evidence. In light of the case's complexities, authorities secured a search warrant for Ridgeway's home and workplace in 1987, but unfortunately, no significant evidence was uncovered. Although various items, such as carpet fibers and ropes, were collected, none could be definitively connected to the victims. A DNA sample was also taken from Ridgeway's hair and saliva for testing, yet the technology of the era was inadequate to match his DNA with the bodily fluids found on the victims. Consequently, Ridgeway roamed freely, a menacing figure evading capture. Despite the efforts of a substantial task force, the case lingered in obscurity for years, and the public gradually began to forget the horrors associated with the Green River Killer. In the year 2001, the advent of more sophisticated testing methods led to a pivotal breakthrough, culminating in Ridgeway's arrest later that same year. On November 30th, 2001, he was apprehended in connection with the tragic murders of 4 women from 1982: Deborah Bonner, Marcia Chapman, Cynthia Hines, and Opal Mills. Initially professing his innocence, Ridgeway soon confessed, revealing a chilling motive rooted in his deep-seated animosity towards women. He specifically targeted prostitutes and underage runaways, believing their disappearances would go unnoticed, a sentiment fueled by his disdain for them. Many of these young girls came from abusive backgrounds, which is why they fled, and I could empathize with that. I, too, am a survivor of abuse. In a manipulative tactic, Ridgeway would sometimes show his victims a photograph of his son to gain their trust. Once he had established a rapport, he would lure them to his home or secluded areas under the pretense of intimacy. Following his gratification, he would strangle them, typically using his hands, though he occasionally resorted to ligatures. The pressure just kept building. My release came through killing, specifically killing women. Most of his victims met their fate either at his residence, in his vehicle, or in desolate locations. He callously disposed of their remains in various secluded, wooded areas of King County, Seattle, to mislead law enforcement. In a particularly disturbing revelation, he admitted to transporting some victims' remains across state lines into Oregon. Furthermore, he disclosed a harrowing truth. After discarding their bodies, he would sometimes return to engage in necrophilia. I revisited at least one of them to have sex with her. Although he later confessed that necrophilia was less fulfilling, it curbed his compulsion to seek out living victims. To delve deeper into Ridgeway's psyche and the motivations behind his heinous acts, investigators conducted numerous interviews with him. In the course of their conversations, he exhibited an unexpected demeanor, reminiscent of a true gentleman. Authorities unearthed unsettling revelations about his formative years. Ridgeway recounted that his mother, Mary Ridgeway, had engaged in inappropriate actions, such as bathing him due to his bedwetting, which ignited dark fantasies of harming her. To wash her son's private areas, consider that most teenage boys grapple with their burgeoning sexuality. This would be profoundly destabilizing for an adolescent boy to perceive his mother in such a light, said the police. As he matured, his conduct spiraled into a more destructive path. In the mid-1960s, he brutally stabbed a boy, nearly ending his life. Astonishingly, despite being a remorseless psychopath, Ridgeway maintained a facade of normalcy prior to his arrest. He entered into matrimony 3 times and fathered a son with his second wife. Around 1985, he began a relationship with Judith Mawson, who would later become his 3rd wife, and they shared 13 years of marriage. In subsequent interviews, she revealed numerous insights about him. When I first encountered him, I perceived him as quite the gentleman, so courteous and amiable. He had a passion for country music and dancing. She noted that upon moving into his residence, there was no carpet. Detectives later suggested that he may have used the carpet to conceal a body. According to her, there were days when Ridgeway would leave for work at the crack of dawn to secure overtime pay. Investigators speculated that he might have committed some of his heinous acts during those early shifts. Despite cohabiting with him, she remained oblivious to his true nature until informed by the authorities. I think I entered a state of denial. I couldn't bring myself to believe it, she confessed. During his time with Judith Mawson, the frequency of his killings diminished, as Ridgeway was genuinely in love with her. In a revealing interview, Mawson expressed, "I believe my role as his wife and my ability to bring him happiness have saved lives." His second wife described him as deeply religious, often immersing himself in the Bible and adhering closely to the teachings of their pastor. Beyond his 3 marriages, he had a history of romantic entanglements with numerous women who noted his relentless pursuit of physical gratification. Ridgeway himself acknowledged a complicated relationship with prostitutes, marked by a tumultuous blend of affection and disdain. Yet his friends portrayed him as amiable, albeit eccentric. During the trial in 2003, Ridgeway confessed to the murders of 48 women in Seattle and Tacoma, although he claimed to have taken the lives of 71 in total, with estimates suggesting the number could reach 90. His capacity for violence was so extensive that he lost track of his victims. To evade the death penalty, he consented to aid investigators in locating the remains of those he had yet to reveal. He guided them to various sites where he had disposed of his victims many years prior. After thorough searches of the locations he identified, authorities confirmed the grim tally of 48 victims, many of whom were initially unidentified but later recognized. During further questioning, he admitted to the murder of Marie M. from decades earlier, while Wendy Lee Caulfield was identified as his first victim in 1983. Ridgeway also directed investigators to a location where remains, later designated as Bones 17 and Bones 20, were uncovered. Following his admissions, it was established that these two unidentified women were also among his victims. Ultimately, he was convicted of the murders of 48 women. On December 18, 2003, King County Superior Court Judge Richard A. Jones sentenced Ridgeway to 48 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, along with an additional 10-year sentence for evidence tampering for each victim, resulting in an astonishing 480 extra years added to his life sentences. In January 2004, Ridgeway found himself in solitary confinement at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. Just when it seemed the case had reached its conclusion, an unforeseen twist emerged. On December 21, 2010, a group of hikers stumbled upon a skull near West Valley Highway in Auburn, Washington, not far from where the remains of a Green River victim had been unearthed in 2003. This skull was later identified as belonging to Rebecca Marrero. On February 18, 2011, Ridgeway entered a guilty plea for the murder of Rebecca Marrero, confessing to the crime. However, he was ultimately acquitted due to a lack of sufficient evidence, leaving his original sentence unchanged. For many years, the identities of the remains designated as Bones 20 and Bones 17 remained shrouded in mystery. The lingering question was, who were the victims associated with these remains? Despite the Green River killer facing justice, investigators tirelessly pursued new leads, striving to uncover the identities of Bones 20 and Bones 17. Following his arrest in 2003, Ridgeway guided investigators to a site in South King County, Washington, where he claimed to have disposed of a victim's remains. A search of the area yielded only partial skeletal remains, with the skull and major bones conspicuously absent. The evidence was forwarded to the University of North Texas, where a DNA profile was successfully created for the unidentified victim. This DNA analysis confirmed that the partial remains discovered in 2003 belonged to the same individual known as Bones 20, first identified in April 1985. The DNA profile was subsequently entered into CODIS, a national database that catalogs DNA profiles of missing persons and unidentified remains. Regrettably, no matches were found, and the victim's identity continued to elude authorities. Eventually, the case details were recorded in NAMUS as UP9930. In 2022, members of the King County Sheriff's Office convened with representatives from Othram to deliberate on the Bones 20 case, ultimately submitting the remains to the Othram lab located in The Woodlands, Texas. Othram's esteemed scientists successfully extracted DNA from skeletal remains, employing forensic-grade genome sequencing to craft a comprehensive DNA profile tailored for forensic genetic genealogy. In a remarkable breakthrough in August 2023, their in-house forensic genetic genealogy team identified Bones 20 as Tammy Lyles, who vanished from Seattle, Washington, nearly 4 decades prior. Authorities reached out to a relative of Tammy, obtaining a reference DNA sample for comparative analysis, which ultimately confirmed the match. Tammy's family later revealed that she had run away from her home in Snohomish County, Oregon, in May 1983, with her fate remaining shrouded in mystery since then. Little was known about her personal life, and her disappearance went unreported initially due to her history of leaving home. Following the identification of Bones 20, authorities turned their attention to Bones 17. Discovered in December 1985 near another set of remains, designated as Bones 16 in Auburn, investigators had already established that these remains belonged to unidentified victims of the notorious Green River Killer. In 2012, DNA testing confirmed Bones 16 as Sandra Denise Major, a 20-year-old woman. Unfortunately, Bones 17's test results yielded no matches over the years. In 2022, King County authorities collaborated with Virginia's Parabon Nanolabs, a cutting-edge DNA testing firm renowned for its ability to identify relatives, even from distant connections. Utilizing the DNA from Bones 17, Parabon Nanolabs sequenced the complete genome and uploaded the data to GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA, searching for potential matches within public DNA databases. Ultimately, a match was discovered, and on December 19, 2023, King County identified Bones 17 as Lori Ann Raspotnik, a teenager who had gone missing from Lewis County, Washington. Authorities reached out to her family, subsequently collecting a saliva sample from Raspotnik's mother, Donna Hurley, which was dispatched to a laboratory at the University of North Texas for DNA analysis. The results confirmed a match. Lori Ann Raspotnik, born on November 13, 1967, was nurtured by her parents, William and Donna Hurley, in the picturesque Juneau, Alaska. Following her father's passing, Donna embraced the role of a single mother, raising Raspotnik alone from the tender age of 5. In later years, Donna unveiled the events of the past, painting a vivid picture of Raspotnik as a spirited individual, brimming with talent and passion for sports, horses, cooking, and dogs. She fondly recalled how Raspotnik could effortlessly achieve A's without even opening her textbooks. However, Donna also described her daughter as a rebellious teenager, indifferent to authority, who had fled their home on several occasions only to return each time. A pivotal moment arose when Raspotnik and her mother clashed over the desire to purchase a horse. Donna, constrained by financial limitations, had to decline. In 1982, Raspotnik left their Lewis County residence once more, this time vanishing without a trace. Despite Donna's relentless search, including hiring a private investigator, her efforts to locate her daughter proved fruitless. There was a brief glimmer of hope when Raspotnik called home to assure her mother of her well-being in Seattle, but that would be the last communication. After 4 long decades, the families of Tammy Lyles and Lori Ann Raspotnik finally found closure. Heartbroken, Donna Hurley grappled with the devastating reality of her daughter's fate, having once envisioned her thriving in a loving family. It saddens me that her life concluded in such a manner. I feel anger towards the individual responsible and towards myself for not being able to prevent it, Donna expressed, burdened by the weight of acceptance. In contrast, following Tammy Lyles's identification, her family opted to remain silent before the media. In the end, justice was delivered for all the victims, including Tammy and Raspotnik, stirring profound emotions within their families as they contemplated the heartbreaking fates of their cherished ones. As we look to the present, one must ponder, is the Green River Killer still among us in 2024? Indeed, Gary Ridgeway remains alive, currently enduring a life sentence at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. After all that has transpired, the lingering inquiry persists. Are there merely 49 victims, or might forthcoming investigations reveal additional tragedies linked to the Green River murders?